So I think one of the key things here that I really like about the natural science course at Cambridge is the flexibility that's built into it. Um, I don't know about you, but when I was 16, 17, I didn't really know that I wanted to be a geneticist or working in pathology or doing computational biology. I really enjoyed biology. I was quite interested in certain aspects of that, but I like chemistry. I like parts of physics as well. And so for me, a natural science degree was felt like a really, really natural choice. And the natural science degree at Cambridge retains that flexibility. So you do have the chance to effectively build your own biology degree by choosing whichever subjects suit you. And in particular, I think the subjects that you find interesting are always going to be the ones where you're going to do better at university.
Nice. Yeah, I think since I've been working here, I've realised whether it's on the sciences side or the humanities side, Cambridge really offers a lot of flexibility for students to be able to choose which modules they want to do in the natural sciences. In the sciences case, the natural sciences course enables students to not focus on, let's say, just specifically biology, chemistry, physics. And in the humanities side, I don't think people realise that students can borrow a lot of papers from different departments. So even if you're studying English, you could borrow papers from the languages department or the linguistics department. And I think that's a really cool thing about Cambridge. So just specifically about natural sciences, am I right in, can you explain a bit about the structure of the course? And I just wanted to make it clear for the viewers, if I want to study biology or biochemistry, or physics, chemistry, material sciences, all of these people would be applying for this one course, natural sciences.
Yes, so for natural sciences, for most colleges, it's split into two tracks. So there's physical natural sciences and biological natural sciences. Effectively, it's the same course, but depending on which route you come in, there might be some different prerequisites on what type of subjects you might have been expected to have taken. Every student at a college in Cambridge will have a director of studies or a DOS, and it's usually a process where you sit down with somebody and you plan out what subjects you'd like to take in your first year. Typically, if you come through the biological natural sciences route, most of those subjects we'd expect to be biological subjects. But the course still retains the flexibility that you can, if you really like the idea of material science and you want to pick that up as one of your 4 subjects in first year, you can do that. It's possible to go deeper into chemistry, to do some physics. So retaining that flexibility is, I think, really useful. And it also works. We get students each year who come in maybe on the physical natural sciences track who quite like to take the big first year biology course, biology of cells. And some of those students really enjoy that course and maybe go and look at doing more biology later on. So that's, yeah, I think it's quite flexible, but there's 2 different routes of admission, but there is flexibility in the system.
So am I right in thinking that whichever route you come in through, once you're in, you can really, it's up to you to choose which modules. You don't have to stick to the biological ones if you've applied through biological natural sciences?
Yes, I think the nice thing, there's great flexibility, but the problem with flexibility is there's some kind of responsibility that comes with that. So we work quite closely with our students to make sure they're picking subjects that are compatible with their backgrounds, that will be compatible with each other. So there are some combinations of subjects that, while they might be interesting, it could be quite difficult, because there's not a lot of overlap between those subjects. But that's something we work really closely with our students with here to make sure they're looking at subjects that they find interesting and also will be practical going forward for them.
I think that's really cool and really interesting how much support students get from their DOS, their Director of Studies, with making which choices they make and which module choices. because I studied chemistry at Oxford. I can't speak on what the course is right now, but I only graduated a couple of years ago, and that culture of a lot of support from your DOS in which module choice, at least in what module choice you'd be taking, wasn't really a thing, because at least for chemistry, most of the modules, almost all of them, were mandatory. So everyone knew what they were doing for the first 3 years. I just wanted to specify for the viewers, am I right in thinking that students who apply for biological natural sciences and students who apply for physical natural sciences, but those two strands will have different types of interviews?
Yeah, so I think that will be, I think, the main difference at admissions. Clearly, I think if you're taking physical natural sciences, you could expect much more mathematical, physical, and some chemical questions coming up. And in the biological natural sciences, there'll still be some quantitative aspects, but there's probably more of a focus on biological questions and chemical questions.
Nice. And the admission, does everyone take the same admissions test?
Yes, so there's a natural science admissions test. I've forgotten what the acronym for those is at the moment. And yeah, depending on what A-level or IB subjects you've specialised in, you can pick a range of those subjects.
Nice. So with regards to the natural sciences course, can you briefly explain how many modules you take per year? At one point do you specialise?
Yeah.
And does everyone do a fourth year, etc.?
Sure. So in first year, all natural science students will take 3 experimental subjects and mathematics or mathematical biology. So I think given that almost everything you'll encounter in natural sciences, is generating quantitative data, it's really important. Mathematics is like a common language across the sciences. So we want all students to have a really firm grasp of maths. So you'll take one of your maths options, and then you have a choice of three subjects. And again, they could be all biological subjects, where you could take perhaps 2 biological subjects and something more on the physical side. So biology of cells is very popular. It's the big, broad biology course in first year. Chemistry is very, very popular. And then there's options like things like material science as well, if you want to cover a little bit of the physical side of things as well.
Nice. And so how often, are there combinations that are more common, that are really popular, or depending on who you use, does every student have a completely different combination, if you see what I mean?
There's some combinations that would be a little bit more common than others. I would say most students probably are going to take biology of cells.
Okay.
Chemistry is very popular.
Yeah.
And again, that's a useful foundation to build on your previous chemistry. And then for beyond those two, and assuming we've already taken maths or mathematical biology,
Yeah.
I think subjects like physiology is quite popular with biologists. So is evolution. That's quite a popular course. And yeah, there's a range of different options there. But I would say biology of cells and chemistry are probably the 2 most common.
Yeah. With subject because Earth Science is the first year course, is that something that leans over more towards biology or more towards the physics?
Yeah, that would officially be on the physical side of the natural sciences, but it is a possible subject that a first year biologist could take. Yeah.
Nice. And with regards to the natural sciences course, how is the course taught? Would I be expecting labs or lectures or classes as well as supervisions, etc.?
So for your 4 subjects in first year, you're going to be having 3 lectures a week. So this would be 12 lectures. And we'd also expect practicals for the 3 experimental subjects. They tend to happen every other week, depending on how long the practicals are. So I would say in a given week, you've got 12 lectures and probably 1 to 2 practicals per week. And then for each of your 4 subjects, you'd be doing a supervision session as well.
Nice. And For anyone who doesn't know, can you explain what are supervisions and what makes them different to a typical class that they're used to at school?
Yes, so supervisions are small group teaching sessions that your director of studies at your college will organise. So it can be quite nice if you've gone to your 3 lectures for, say, biology of cells that week. You might have covered quite a lot of content in 3 lectures. When you go and sit down at that supervision, it could be yourself and another student, or yourself and 1 or 2 other students in a small group with a supervisor who's been chosen by the college for their knowledge of the subject. And it's a chance to go through the content of the lectures, to try and work together to highlight what was important, to look at aspects of the taught content that maybe were a bit unclear, needed a bit of clarification. Most courses will provide some problem sheets for you to work through in advance of the supervision. So these could be small quantitative problems. These could be short answer questions just to test the knowledge you picked up from the lecture. Or they could be kind of more specific problem sheets. So usually it's a bit of a combination of going through the taught content, reinforcing some of that with some problems, and then working together to have a look at your answers and see if there was anywhere you needed to go back and check your notes again.
Nice. I think just wanted to ask for students who are deciding between different universities and they're considering Cambridge, I guess Oxford as well, who have the tutorial system. What do you think a student would be missing if there wasn't the supervision system and it was the classes, the practicals, and the lectures?
I think, I went to a university where I could read natural sciences, but we didn't have supervisions. So you're very much on your own with the content. And I think you can go to a lecture, you can follow the content, and you think, yeah, I can understand the main concepts. I think I have a good grasp of this. Sometimes it's not until you sit down in a small group and work through some problems together that you realize, well, maybe I didn't quite pick up that aspect, or I misunderstood that part of the lecture a little bit. So I think it's really useful to work together in groups like that. It's nice working with other people who might have taken different subjects to you, that might have different strengths and weaknesses. The other thing I think that's really quite important as we go through university in the UK is to develop critical thinking. And that's something we really want to see from our graduates, particularly by the time you get to 3rd year in natural sciences at Cambridge. There's less lectures, there's a lot more independent reading, independent working, people doing research projects. So we really want to equip students with the skills to be able to go and think for themselves. And in supervisions in 1st and 2nd year, that's something I think supervisors work quite hard on. So in many instances, they might go a little bit beyond the lecture. They might ask you to think about, concepts that might not quite match up with what's been in the lecture, and just get you to think about alternative hypotheses. How else could this work? How might this apply in some other field? So I think those conversations are quite useful to have as you go through the natural sciences degree.
Nice. I think at least at A level and GCSE level, students think of science as there being objective answers, right? Like things that are facts and things that are right and wrong. In supervisions, do you find that students tend to have different approaches of arriving at the similar answers to explain a problem?
Yeah, I think students can have very different ways of thinking about things. I mean, we all think quite differently, and I think it's being exposed to that range of different views that can really help us explore our critical thinking. I think when you look at A-level subjects, schools are excellent at teaching us through those courses, but I think what you'll find when you come to university is we really want to push beyond that. And I think something you said is very important, which is that something that happens again in biology. Everything, if you read everything as just fact, and this is the one way, this always happens this way. The thing I love about biology is every time you think you've cracked something, you'll find 12 exceptions. You'll find some organism that lives deep in the soil that does it completely differently.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really like about biology is we're constantly learning and improving our knowledge of how biology works. And biology is very adaptable and happens in lots of different ways. So I think that's something we really try and explore with students here.
Nice. I guess that's at what point, if there's so many exceptions, does the rule is it even a rule anymore? And
Yeah, I think you do eventually get to a point where the amount of knowledge in a field gets to the point where you think, yes, okay, we're now, have pretty good understanding of how this works in these different systems. But again, having the adaptability to realize that there could still be other ways of things happening. The entire field of biology I work on didn't exist when I was an undergrad, which I still find quite humbling. So yeah, I think that adaptability is definitely important.
Nice. And just to go back on the supervisions, at least for the more biological modules, I assume students will be handing in work beforehand. Are they answering problem sheets or are they writing essays?
Depends on the course. I mean, for the things like mathematical biology, mathematics be more like problem sheets and working through different problems and then looking at how everybody's answered those. And for things like biology of cells, there could be some short answer questions. There could be some small quantitative problems, and there could be some quite small, not quite essays yet, but more tracks of written text to just demonstrate your understanding of a concept. As you move through the natural science course, you may find some subjects become a little bit more essay heavy later on in second year and possibly in third year. So yeah, it's something we work on with students here to just prepare them for the type of subject they're taking and how that's assessed.
Nice. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the second year of the natural sciences course, because there's a huge variety of modules for students to take. I'll just list a few of the biological modules. This isn't all of them, and they can change year on year, I imagine. There's biochemistry, biology of disease, cell biology, ecology, evolutionary module, evolutionary behavior module, neurobiology, plant sciences, etc., and there's the chemistry modules. In second year you can only choose 3 of the modules of an even longer list. How do students know which to choose from?
Yeah, I'd say it's a particular issue as a director of studies. I think, as I said before, with flexibility and choice comes great responsibility. So that's something. As a director of studies, I will usually meet with natural science students at the beginning of term, at the end of term, and also in the middle of term if they want to talk about anything particular. And that's something we start talking about usually towards the end of first year. And it's something students love having the choice, but sometimes feel like, well, I really enjoy this topic. I really like this topic. So we would usually sit down and discuss that holistically. And I guess for me, what I've found most useful in helping my students has been sitting down and working out what did you really enjoy in first year? You've had a lot of content across a lot of different aspects of biological natural sciences and possibly physical natural sciences. What did you enjoy from that? Where did you really feel like you were doing well? What are your thoughts about where you'd like to go, later on in the course? And that'll help us make some decisions about what would be a good set of subjects to take in second year. Some subject combinations are naturally complementary to each other, which can be quite nice. So things like biochemistry is quite complementary with cell and developmental biology, and also potentially with biology of disease. So depending on a student's interests, what they've really enjoyed in first year, where they'd like to go, we can begin to put together a set of possible options.
Nice. So am I right in thinking the first year biology of cells course is probably quite broad, and then depending on what a student likes within that course, they can choose more specific modules in the second year?
Yeah, I'd say that's quite an accurate way of describing it. Biology of cells course is enormous. It's a great course, but it's very, very broad. And I think that's quite nice because it provides for physical natural scientists that might be the only biology course they take at Cambridge. And it means they're going to get a good fundamental background in biology. And again, for our biological natural scientists, it can help them decide in second year which aspects of the course they really enjoyed.